we went to StockSnap, and you downloaded a photo that had a landscape and then something in it that could be removed, like animals or trees or something like that. You're welcome to just get the elephant photo that I'm using as well. Okay, some reminders about when you open up your documents in Photoshop. First off, maybe you're missing some palettes. If you are, you can go to Window, Workspace, Essentials Default, or Reset Essentials. And that way you'll always have your palettes pop back up, like your tool palette, your layers palette. All right, I'm going to put my tool palette in 2 columns by clicking on that double arrow to the side. All right, other thing to check. We just got this off of StockSnap, which means it's going to be pretty big. Let's go to Image, Image Size, and double check the dimensions of our photo that we just downloaded. All right, this photo is very large. It's 66 inches by 44 inches. That's very large. And when we use these large photos from stock photo sites, they can ultimately take up a lot of data, and they can make your computer run slower at school. So it's a good idea to shrink this down a little bit. We've been working with images that are 8 inches by 10 inches. We can also work with 11 by 14. So I'm just going to type in 14 for the width. Notice there's a chain link to the height, meaning Photoshop automatically adjusted the height. I don't have to adjust the height. And I'll click OK. Now the reason why I did that was to reduce this image size and make it so that this runs a little faster. All right, I zoomed back in and you can see that it's still good resolution. It's not blurry. Okay, first off, let's take a look at what's called Content Aware Fill. This is going to allow me to delete something and have Photoshop automatically replace it. Right now I have my background layer, and get into the habit of duplicating any background layer that you might need later. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the background layer, duplicate layer, just in case I want my original photo later. All right, so I've duplicated the background, and I'm even going to turn off the eyeball for the original. So it's there in case I need it. Okay, so I've just really have my regular photo. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete some of these trees very easily, very quickly. So first off, I'm going to get my zoom tool and zoom in. I'm going to get my regular lasso tool, the freeform lasso tool. And I'm going to make a very loose lasso around this tree. So notice that I didn't take a bunch of time. I didn't try to get the magnetic lasso. I didn't try to get the edges of the tree. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this tree and let Photoshop replace it. So I made a loose selection around it, including the tree and the background in the marching ants. I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Edit, Content Aware Fill. All right, now when what's happening is Photoshop for me went into what's called a mask mode, and notice it's masking out around it. I'm going to click OK, and now take a look at what just happened. Do you see what happened to the tree? Where's the tree? The tree is gone. And Photoshop replaced it. I'm going to go to Select, Deselect. Photoshop replaced it with the pixels around it. So Photoshop sampled the background around the tree and replaced the tree. I can do that again. How about with this one right here? I'm going to get my lasso tool, the regular lasso, and I'm going to do a loose little lasso around this little tree. Edit, Content Aware Fill. All right, and it's showing me In this case, Photoshop is showing me where it could replace it, taking the replacement pixels. Click OK, and there it is. There is my picture without that tree. Notice that every time I did that, it made a brand new layer, so that it's technically showing me the pixels it replaced it with. So if I hide that layer, the tree's back. But if I turn the eyeball back on, the tree's gone. All right, now that's pretty simple because the tree is in that landscape of pretty similar looking grass. Now, how about if I did something more complicated, like how about one of the elephants? Let's try that. I'm going to get the lasso tool. I'm going to lasso the entire elephant, including the grass around it. All right, so marching ants around the entire elephant plus some of the grass around it. And let's see if Photoshop can do this. That's a much bigger image, and there's more going on. Edit, content, aware, fill. And okay. All right, so take a look. Did it do a good job that time? Does that look natural and realistic? No. All right, so it does have its limitations. The larger area that you try to fill, it might not look realistic because that was a large area, that whole elephant. And then notice that Photoshop sampled some pixels and then started repeating them, and it turned it into a pattern that is very much not realistic. All right, so it'll work for some things, but it has its limitations. All right, so that's deleting something using your edit content aware fill. All right, next, let's look at some more color adjustments that you could use. I'm going to go back to the photograph copy in the layers palette. And what I'm going to do is I am going to select one of the elephants. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I'm going to select this one right here. And I want to change its color. I want to change its hue. So I am going to use the quick select, and I don't want any background in there. All right, I don't want any background in there. So I'm going to use the quick select. I'm going to drop down my brush and make a much smaller brush and try to only select the elephant itself, no background. All right, got a little bit of the grass in there, but let's take a look. I want to adjust the color of the elephant. All right, now at this point, the elephant is selected. It's got marching ants around it, and I could use our regular image adjustment. Remember this one? Image adjustments, hue, saturation. Image adjustments, hue, saturation. Okay, so from here, I can adjust the elephant, their hue. All right, we've seen this one before. Now in this case, the elephant's pretty dark to start out with, so the hue adjustment is not that dramatic. All right, I'm going to hit cancel. Now, how about this? Let's do another hue adjustment. But in this case, what I'm going to do is use the paint bucket and my layer blending modes. We used our layer blending modes to blend in the lightning. I'm going to use a layer blending mode to help me blend in some color. Take a look. I am going to, first off, make a brand new layer above my photograph. I can go to Layer, New Layer, and I'm going to name this one Paint because I'm going to paint on it. All right, so there's my new layer. It's right above my photograph. My elephant is still selected, okay? Elephant is still selected. So I'm going to choose a color. How about a nice bright purple? I'm going to get my paint bucket. I'm on a brand new layer, right? So I just filled in the elephant, this purple color, on a brand new layer. Now this looks very flat. This is now a purple silhouette. It is not realistic. I am going to use my layer blending modes to help make this look like a realistic color overlay. All right, so remember we dropped down our layer blending modes to do the lightning, right? Now I'm going to drop it down right here where it says normal. I'm on that layer with the paint, and I'm going to try out my different layer blending modes. All right, and you can see now how that color, that purple paint, interacts with the layer below it by changing the layer blending mode. All right, now in this case, I think overlay is very dramatic, or I could go for soft light. Hard light, obviously very saturated. All right, or you could have some fun with things like hard mix, makes it look very posterized. Color is also very vibrant. Okay, so I can change, I can play around with its layer blending modes with color and that color overlay. All right, so now there it is. There's my new purple elephant, maintaining the photo realism of the shadows and the highlights. Okay, and then since I made it on a new layer and just adjusted the layer blending mode, let's say I change my mind. Oh, I don't want that. I'm just going to go to the paint layer and hide it. Okay, so I've done a non-destructive change. I can hide that and the regular elephant is back. Whereas if I had gone to image adjustments, hue, saturation, that's called a destructive change. It changed the photograph. This is just laying on top of the photograph, a non-destructive change. Okay, other things to think about. Remember when you are, I'm going to go back, by the way, and select that elephant. When you are thinking about doing your own original photo composite, some things to think about. Let's say I want to duplicate this. All right, so I've selected that elephant. I'm going to duplicate it. Remember some of your ways to duplicate. You could duplicate with your move tool, hold down Alt, click and drag. Notice I'm actually only duplicating the paint because I'm on the paint layer. I need to go to the photograph layer. All right, so I can duplicate the elephant like that. Here's another shortcut. I'm going to duplicate my selected elephant, but I'm going to copy and paste it onto a new layer. Here it is. It's really quick. I'm going to duplicate it and copy and paste into a new layer with one keyboard shortcut. Control J. All right, Control J. And that duplicated it, and put it onto a new layer. There it is. Control J. All right, so we've learned about deleting elements with content aware fill. We've learned about changing the hue with a paint layer and a layer blending mode. And we can duplicate objects onto new layers. And one more, don't forget that you want to play around with opacity changes. So here's my new elephant that I duplicated on its own layer. All right, what about making it sort of see-through? I don't know, for some reason. All right, so don't forget about your opacity in layers. Right here on the layer where I'm circling, it says opacity. I'm going to drop that down and reduce the opacity of that elephant. So now that elephant is see-through, transparent. All right, and that is by going to the opacity on the top of the layers palette. Now keep in mind, if that elephant, I had removed that elephant from the background. So if that elephant was still in the background, then I would be reducing the opacity of the entire background. Didn't want that, right?